All right. So by now we've been talking about boundaries for this like entire month, and so by now you might understand that you're missing some boundaries. You might have identified what boundaries you're missing, where they're missing, and all of those things. And so today we're gonna finish this month out talking about why boundaries don't stick without support or without standards, because I don't want you to be in this place of living life in such a way to where you don't feel that having boundaries, living with boundaries, having these standards and all of that jazz is actually conducive to the life that you're living, the life that you say that you want, or anything of that nature. And so I'm just going to put y'all over here because the Facebook Live isn't working properly, so it's no need to be over here because it ain't working, and I don't know why it's not working. But anywho, I digress. Let's just reset that. But anywho, so why do you need boundaries? Like, have we established that? Have we understood that? Have we gotten clear on that point at this point in time in our life? Do we understand that boundaries are like actually important? Because if you really want to have and live this life to where you're showing up, you're doing the things, and you're living the life that you want, we got to do something differently than what we're doing. And so you, by now, hopefully are at the point and at the place that you know, I need boundaries. You're at the point or you're at the place of understanding and identifying what boundaries are even missing. And by now, oh Lord, my chair. By now you are hopefully in this place of not only understanding and identifying what boundaries, there we go. What boundaries are missing, what needs to change, but what you're now realizing and identifying and maybe even coming to understand is that you have some clarity, but you don't have the support that you need to get through. And so while you might have clarity, without support, like without this stabilizing thing to help you, you get what you need, but you don't have the support to have it, it's going to still collapse. Especially when we're in those environments and living these lives that don't slow down. And so today, like I said, I want to talk about why boundaries don't stick without support or without standards. And so today is about understanding why boundaries don't fail because of inconsistency, but they fail because you're not supported. You don't have something to lift you up, to prop you up, to support you. And understanding that knowing better doesn't mean you're doing better, because it's not going to hold without support. So you can know better, but if you're not doing better by getting the support that you need, you're going to be in the same place that you've been in. And so when you get to the place to where your boundaries have these standards and have these things that reinforce them, instead of just being a boundary, it's a principle, it's the standard, it's the thing that you live by, then you can get to the place that where no matter how busy life gets, you still show up. Because if you don't know, I'm Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, and I'm all about helping you to create systems that work with your life, your career, and your business, and that work even when life gets busy, because having systems and having structure is what you need to succeed, respectfully. And so if you're going through this point of like resetting your boundaries every single month, and I'm saying that because we're ending this month and we're about to go into a new month, that's a problem. Awareness and clarity aren't enough to get you to where you want to be. But let's talk about what can. Why do conversations, why do these things collapse under pressure? And so you have these conversations, you say these things over and over, but yet and still you feel as though you're getting nowhere. You can explain, you can negotiate, you can justify all you want, but those things are really inviting a conversation. And when you have boundaries, it's not really a conversation. It's, I said what I said, and I meant what I said. Whereas when you have conversations, that invites feedback. A conversation is meant to be a two-way street. A conversation is meant to be something to where I say this, you respond, I respond back. And so when we have conversations, instead of having boundaries, once someone pushes back a little bit, that's where the collapsing comes in, because you have some pressure. Pressure is being applied, and because of that, and in that, there's this give and take that is happening, and right now it's more give than take. And so having conversations puts you into the place to where you're explaining to yourself over and over, or not to yourself. You're explaining to other people over and over and having to justify why I go to sleep at this time. I wake up at this time. My phone goes on do not disturb. I don't do this. I do that. You're giving room for negotiation instead of saying, I go to bed at this time, period. I wake up at this time, period. I don't answer my phone after this time. I don't answer my phone before this time. I always get my workout in. Whatever your non-negotiable is, whatever your boundary is, that's the standard that you want to create to live by. But when you invite negotiation, when you invite your boundaries to be a conversation, they're not respecting your boundary, because they're now having a conversation and inviting you to negotiate, to go against what you said, and to create this wiggle room. But that's not what we want, because we live and we work in these high pressure environments that often reward our overextending. And so when you have boundaries as a form of conversation, it leads to you overextending yourself more and more, because they think it's up for negotiation. They think that this is a room for conversation. They think that this is a place where we can dive into this deeper. We can talk more about this. But that's not really what we actually have here, and that's not what we're looking to create here at all. And so I don't want you to think, or I don't want them to think, that they can tell you that that's how this is going to be. And that's why standards create safety. You might currently think that standards create conflict, but it doesn't. Having boundaries that work for a week, but then they disappear, is the sign of the collapse of the pressure. And so if we want to shift from that place where we're collapsing under pressure, we need to know that support is what you need. Because support is going to be the thing that helps you start, while standards are going to be the things that help you to sustain. And so you think that consistency, or no, let me take that back. You think that likability, or being the nice person, being the go-to person is what gonna keep you having boundaries in place. But the reality is that having consistency is gonna actually be the thing that's gonna hold your boundaries in place. Because in having and being consistent, they understand that when you say this, you mean this. When you do this, you mean that. Because in being consistent, you're able to show them better than you can tell them. Because sometimes people don't want to hear what you got to say. And that's on them. But if they don't want to hear what you have to say, they're going to see what you do. And so once you have these standards, they see that you mean what you say and you live by these standards. They're going to understand that she means what she says. And so as a result, that's going to allow safety for you to be a thing, because they're going to see that when you say it, when you say you're going to do this by this deadline, because of the life and the way in which you show up, they can believe that. And they don't have to hound you. They don't have to pressure you. They don't have to push you. They don't have to try to get you to negotiate and change what it is you said you were going to do in the time within which you said you were going to do it. It's your non-negotiable. It's the thing that you've said. It's the thing that you've created. It's the thing that you've established. And so there's no room at this point for anything else, because you said what you said. You meant what you said. And that's what we're working with. And so understanding that and living through that can then lead to this self-leadership, because the self-leadership kind of shows up in the standards that you're creating. But it's important for you to understand that having these standards, because it's not creating the conflict that you think it's going to create, is actually going to help you not be rigid, but instead to be self-led. And so if you're not rigid, yes, you have structure, but understanding that with structure, that gives you the parameter within which you're operating. You don't have to be so rigid to where there's no give and take. But the backside of that is that understanding that you're saying that there's no give and take because you're not negotiating on your boundaries, but you also understand that there are going to be situations and circumstances where this is your standard, this is your boundary, but it might have to move a little bit. But you're the one that's deciding that. You don't let others dictate it and decide it for you. And so once we start to reframe this idea of self-leadership and understand it and view it from the viewpoint of not being rigid, but being self-led and being the framework from which you show up, it does the work. Because if we go back to the Lee method, I know I haven't talked about it in a while, but like that look, examine, and that execute. When we look at why do conversations collapse under pressure, when we examine why standards create safety instead of conflict, we're then able to execute by being self-led in your career and understanding why that's important. And so once we can get to and reframe it through this viewpoint and decide that awareness, okay, I see it, but what's the decision that I'm going to make as a result of the things that I see? What is the decision that I'm going to make about the life that I want to live? What is the decision that I'm going to make about the way in which I'm going to show up? You're not failing at boundaries. You've been doing this alone and you've been doing it without support. And you've been doing it because your life rewards this idea of overextending yourself, of saying yes to all these things. But that's not where we are anymore. If you're ready to really like step out of this place and understand that support is the thing that's going to make your boundaries sustainable, it's going to help you to be consistent, which is going to go back to the standards that you're creating that becomes the safety net and the comfort from within which you can operate. You'll see that you don't have to every single month like reset your boundaries. Yes, every month you should reset in the sense of setting new goals, checking in your goals, checking on your progress. But that check-in isn't meant to be a complete overhaul of your life every month. We do daily planning, weekly to-do list, monthly goal setting, quarterly like overviews, this 6-month reset and this yearly reset, because the further away you get is where the big overhauls come. You shouldn't be overhauling every month because just as soon as you get into the rhythm, it's time to switch it up again. And that's not what it's supposed to be. They say it takes 21 days to make a habit. I'm more of the 30-day philosophy. And that's why when it comes to the work I do in one-on-one coaching on a continuous basis, it's 6 weeks because I want you to be able to go through the full cycle of it all to create the change, implement it, and walk into it and walk through it to see what and where does there need to be this give and take. But if you're at the point to where every month you're resetting, just as soon as you get your footing, you're resetting again. And that's why you don't feel like you're actually making progress. That's why you don't feel that this is sustainable. That's why you don't feel like it's going to work because you're doing the most and not in a good way. And so I want you to understand that you not only can you stop, but you should stop. You should start resetting your boundaries every single month. You should start resetting and overhauling your life every month. In order to do that, you have to get away from the place that you are and to step into the place that you're looking to be. You understand and you're aware that the boundaries that I have or that I need aren't enough, or they could be enough with some adjustments. You're clear that, look, I've been trying to do it alone, but I don't really know. And you see that I need boundaries because I need them to be the standards, the system, and the structure from within which I operate in life. But how? Because I live and I work in this environment, this microwave society that we live in, to where it's go, 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 and I never really get a chance to slow down. It's time to design boundaries that work around your real life. The work I do with my clients and helping them to create these systems that work for life, for business, for career, even when life gets busy, is the very definition of this boundaries work that we're talking about. If you don't decide the standard from which you're going to operate, somebody else or something else will. And if you're at this point to where you have this awareness, this clarity, and you can see these things, the reality is they probably already have been doing this, but you're acknowledging and you're willing to walk into the place that it doesn't have to be this way. I don't want it to be this way. Something's got to change, and I'm ready and willing for that thing to change. That's cool. Because the more you explain, justify, and negotiate when it comes to your boundaries, the more you invite pushback. The more that you allow consistency to be the way in which you operate, the more that your boundaries will hold in place. And the more that you look at and decide that I'm ready to create the standards from my life instead of allowing someone else to do it, that's self-leadership in action. You need to understand that structure and standards are going to rule over your mood and over stress any day of the week. Y'all know what I like to say. I'm anti-hustle and grind, but I'm not anti-hard work. The hard work comes from creating, implementing, and sticking by the standards and the structure. The hustle and grind comes from living by your mood and living by the stress and living by the calendar that someone else has created for you. You don't have to do that. You can book a personalized productivity audit to figure out more about how we can work together. But if you're like, I need this, you can book your time and productivity intensive. In this tap-in session, in under 2 hours, we're going to identify where it is that you're leaking energy, where your standards are unclear, and how we can go about building the systems. And when I say how we can go about, I mean we're going to actually do the work to build the systems that are going to actually protect you. Because the women that I work with, the people that I work with, they don't play about their lives. They don't rely on hope. They go after what it is that they want with support. And I'm here to lend the help and give you the support that you need to show up, to do the work, to be the person you're called to be, to do the work that you're called to do in the way in which you're called to do it. If that sounds like you, send me a message or comment below and let's have a conversation so that we can tap in and get on the same page for your boundaries, for the structure that you're looking to create, and for the life that you're looking to live. You don't have to go at it alone, and you never should go at it alone. But if you're ready to do it with help, if you're ready to do it with support, I'm here. Boundaries don't stick without support. They don't stick without standards. They stick based off the work that you're doing. You're not unsupported. You're not failing at boundaries. You just don't have the container within which to operate. Because your nervous system right now is always on alert, and it's time to regulate that and to live in a way and live in a society, because the culture that we live in trains us to hustle, trains us to go. But what if we reset that? Instead of resetting your boundaries every month, what if we reset the way in which we're operating, the standards, the system, the structure from which we're operating? So today we talked about why conversations collapse under pressure when it comes to your boundaries, because you make it about a negotiation. Why standards create safety instead of conflict, because you think it's about likability, but it's not. It's about consistency. And we talked about why you have to set and decide the standard, because if you don't, somebody else will. We live and we work in a society that is go, go, go. And we live and work in workplaces that if you don't decide what your calendar is going to do, they will dictate it for you. It's time to lead and to lead ourselves, because self-leadership in the work that we do is vital. It's important. It's about getting to the place that we can have standards and structures over mood and stress. Being anti-hustle and grind doesn't mean anti-hard work. The hard work comes from having those standards, having those systems, having those structures. The hustle and grind flows from stressing and following your mood. You're not going to always want to. And that's where the standards, the structures, and the system really comes into place. Boundaries don't stick without support. Tap in. Get the support that you need, the accountability that you need. If you've got questions, reach out. If you need help, I'm here. Stop trying to do it alone. The boundaries that you've been trying to create, they're not sticking for a reason. You don't have the structure, the systems, and the standards that will help you to allow them to stick. Your boundaries have been so disrespected. Look, and if that's the case, that's where we have to do the work to shift it. That's where the work comes in to adjust it. Like, we don't show up and we don't do this work to just do this work and to show up. If you want your boundaries to be respected because they've been disrespected, it starts with you. The first question you have to ask yourself is, am I respecting my boundaries? Because if you're not respecting them, what makes you think Tom, Dick, Harry, Joe Blow are going to respect the thing that you're not respecting? We've created boundaries. We say we have boundaries, but are you sticking to them? Are you enforcing them? Are you living by them? It starts with you. You can't expect anybody else to do something that you're not doing for yourself. The reason that we have gotten to this place and have had these problems is because we allow, and I get it, you want to please your boss, you want to be promoted, you want to go further in life. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but you've allowed that to dictate and change the way in which you show up. You got to this place because you were strong. You got to this place because you're smart. You got to this place because you're capable. But now that you're in this place, suddenly you're not sure that your strength, your capability, and your education is enough to keep you there. It is. And because it is, that's where your boundaries really have to come into play. Because the further you go up the ladder, the more they're going to try to disrespect those boundaries. But until you put your own foot down and say that, no, it's not going to be this way, it's going to continue to be this way. So let's have a conversation and let's figure out what it would look like to not only for you to respect your boundaries, but for others to respect your boundaries. Because if not, we're going to be in the same place that we were last year, probably since 2020, really, because since life blew up in the pandemic, like, what? Like, what have we been doing to get ourselves back there? You need support. And having support is not in any way, shape, or form a sign of weakness. Having support is the strength that you need to get to the next place. So tap in. Let's have a conversation. Let's look at what it would look like to work together, to have the support, to have the accountability, to help you to not only create the boundaries, to enforce them, and to teach others to respect them, because you're going to respect them first. And as a result, they have no choice but to fall in line. So it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach and strategist, here for another Sunday of Success Starter series. Tap in, send me a message, reach out, let me know how I can support you. You're not a rude person. You've gotten to a point. You keep the phone on Do Not Disturb, saying no. You become the no person. I'm told that you're being disrespectful because you have boundaries. You don't. And it's funny that you say that because like in less than an hour, I'm about to host this free webinar called Your Yes is Expensive, the hidden costs of saying yes. Like, we think that no is expensive. It's really your yes is expensive. Your no is a boundary, and you can say no in a way that is respected. You can say no in a way that sometimes they don't even realize you're saying no because you just offered them another alternative. So let's have a conversation. Let's look at what that will look like to support you, to be there for you. Reach out or I'll send you a message. But yeah, it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach and strategist, here for another Sunday Success Starter series. Next month is a new month, new topic. Tap in, stay tuned. I'll be dropping what our theme, whatchamacallit, for the month is. But until next time, guys, Coach Lee is out.